So it's like a whole nother, people don't understand how hard that is.
You know, I never thought about just playing with my dad, but of course he's brought it up a couple times.
For him to be able to use his power to do that, I think is pretty legendary.
We have a lot to cover in this one video. The Los Angeles Lakers officially unveiled to their fans what this season's going to look like. Bronny James made his debut in the Summer League, and analysts are already picking him apart. But LeBron James also gave an interview with Dave McMenamin, which gives us an idea of where the future of LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers lies. So before we get to the content, I owe you an apology. We broke our upload streak. I unfortunately was a little sick at the end of the DeMar DeRozan video I made for you guys. So the upload streak is broken, but we're still making this push to 1 million subscribers, and we are officially less than 35,000 subscribers away from hitting our goal. So if you enjoy the content, make sure you're subscribed and have our notifications on. And now that we got all that out of the way, to the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? This past season was supposed to be the Los Angeles Lakers' best season to date. They finally got Anthony Davis and LeBron James at their healthiest. They surround LeBron James and AD with good role players and shooting. Two-way players like Taurean Prince, who Darvin Ham has a huge crush on for some reason. So much so that Taurean Prince followed Darvin Ham to Milwaukee. Everything was going according to plan. But the Los Angeles Lakers, despite their most healthiest season from their two biggest stars, and LeBron James still kicking father time's weren't able to make it past the first round of the NBA playoffs. Now, granted, they faced off against the Denver Nuggets, but the issues clearly lied in coaching this time. So going into the offseason, the Los Angeles Lakers had some improvements that needed to be made. But Laker fans had a tremendous amount of hope, because Rob Pelinka even told us in the past that we have additional assets to trade this offseason.
Well, at the trade deadline, we had one first-round draft pick. It was our only sort of hook to fish with. And this summer, in June, we, at the time of the draft, will have 3 first-round draft picks to look for deals, which I think will really unlock an access to potentially a greater or bigger swing. And we didn't want to shoot a small, bullet now that would only lead to very marginal improvement at the expense of making a much bigger and more impactful movement potentially in June and July.
I speak for all Laker fans when I say immediately we got excited. Who will it be? Will the Lakers trade for Trae Young? They got the #1 overall pick. I don't blame them for wanting to move on from Trae Young. I mean, we have very valuable assets to give up for Trae Young. At the very minimum, we'll get Trae Young, but if not, maybe we could get DeJounte Murray. Surely his asking price won't be as crazy. But if we don't get DeJounte Murray, it's okay, because Chris Paul and LeBron James have been BFFs for almost 2 decades. And he'll certainly sign a veteran minimum to play with LeBron and get a ring. What if we're really able to overachieve and we could trade for Donovan Mitchell? But if that doesn't happen, then it's okay, because Klay Thompson's daddy played for the Lakers, and it was always Klay's destiny to play for the Los Angeles Lakers. But if we don't get Klay, we'll certainly get DeMar DeRozan. He's from LA as well. LeBron James even said he's willing to take a pay cut so the Lakers could sign James Harden, Jonas Valanciunas, or Klay Thompson. LeBron even called Klay Thompson when free agency started. And then free agency started, and the Lakers didn't get anybody. Kind of a difficult pill to swallow. Nobody wanted to sign with the Lakers. It's almost as if they didn't want to be part of a team whose entire season was going to be spotlighting the fact that LeBron James was playing his final seasons for the Lakers, stat padding and having a good time with his son, which, by the way, he deserves. I mean, he had a remarkable career. He brought a championship for the Lakers. Yes, it counts. But I can understand why players didn't necessarily want to play with LeBron James and the Lakers. I mean, when you take a look at the Western Conference, it's crazy how much stronger each and every team got, except for maybe the Clippers. I mean, the Dallas Mavericks went to the NBA Finals, and they signed Klay Thompson. The New Orleans Pelicans traded for DeJounte Murray. The Sacramento Kings signed DeMar DeRozan. The OKC Thunder traded for Alex Caruso, and the San Antonio Spurs deserve their own video for what they're doing. They signed Chris Paul, they drafted the best defensive point guard in the NBA draft, they traded their other pick for a future 2031 unprotected first-round pick, and they were part of the DeMar DeRozan trade too. They somehow got Harrison Barnes. Each and every team in the West got better, whereas the Lakers got worse. And for the record, LeBron James did actually take a pay cut, and I think the way he took the pay cut's hilarious. I mean, he took a $3 million pay cut to help the Lakers avoid strict tax and roster penalties, and it's so funny because he takes the $3 million pay cut, and then he gives us this gem of a quote. "Me being able to be in a situation where I can protect the franchise under the second apron, understanding this new thing is very hard on a lot of teams as far as them trying to get better, and whatever the case may be. I've been in a relationship with the Lakers going on 7 years. I'm absolutely okay with taking a pay cut." I love how LeBron's coming out and saying,
I'm here to save the franchise. I'm not only thinking about myself, I'm thinking about the team as well.
But the thing is, the second apron penalties are so insane that it's clearly worth giving up $3 million so your team gets beneath the second apron. Otherwise, it's impossible to acquire new stars. Honestly, if he took those $3 million, I think people would judge him. Remember, if the Los Angeles Lakers exceed the second apron, then one, you cannot aggregate salaries in a trade. For example, the Los Angeles Lakers would not be able to trade Rui Hachimura and D'Angelo Russell for James Harden. They have to take on 100% of any incoming salary in straight up trades, meaning that they could trade D'Angelo Russell for a player that is making $17 million a year. You're not allowed to include cash in trades. First round picks 7 years away are untradeable. No trade exceptions can be used for multiple player salaries. No previous trade exceptions can be used. The craziest one is a team's first round pick is moved to the end of the first round if they stay in the second apron for 3 of 5 seasons. So yeah, thank you LeBron for taking $3 million less so the Lakers could actually have the flexibility to trade for a star if a star becomes available. Now, LeBron discussed how the Lakers failed in free agency, and just based off of his demeanor, you could just tell what stage of his career he's in.
Rich Paul told me leading up to you signing that deal that you'd be willing to take a pay cut to sign an impact player. But here we sit, Klay Thompson's with the Dallas Mavericks, DeMar DeRozan's with the Sacramento Kings. What do you think happens?
It takes two to tango. I mean, at the end of the day, I think, our front office and our coaching staff, they try to do the job that they wanted to do or try to get guys to come, and it didn't happen. And that's okay. That's part of the business.
So the Lakers aren't able to get any free agents. So for the most part, at least my expectations entering this season is very similar to a Kobe Bryant farewell tour, unless if the Los Angeles Lakers really got a superstar as a head coach in JJ Redick and play with such incredible chemistry that they rocket to the top of the Western Conference. But I'm really not expecting that. I'd love for that to happen, but for the most part, I really think the next 2 years is just going to be about LeBron James trying to pad his stats as much as possible and get some valuable floor time with his son. And I hope I'm wrong, but look at how much of this interview with Dave McMenamin is about Bronny.
It was very emotional. It was very emotional to hear. I mean, that's been his dream for quite a while. He said he wants to play in the NBA, and then he had an opportunity to talk to his agent, Rich Paul, and Rich asked him what is his ultimate goal in this whole thing. And he said, I just want to hear my name called. And for it to happen, with us all being together and him being able to hear his name called in the NBA draft, it's like a moment that we will never, ever forget.
Between the lines, to some extent, basketball's going to take care of itself.
Yeah, for sure.
But outside of those lines, he's starting to have some of the same arrows slung at him that you had when you were a teenager. Mm-hmm. What's going to take for him?
Doesn't care. I actually cared a little bit when I came in. I wanted people to like me, and Bronny doesn't give a.
Obviously, it's an unforgettable moment, and LeBron James takes his time to really prop up Bronny and his courage and everything he's gone through to get to this point, which, granted, he has gone through a lot to get to this point. I mean, going through a heart defect, sticking with basketball regardless. LeBron even mentions how much harder it is for him because he had a choice to do whatever he wants, but he chose basketball.
Like me personally, when I was coming up, I had no choice. I literally had no choice. I had to make it out. Like, I had no choice. I had to make it out for me, my mom, my family. Bronny has all the choices in the world. So it's like a whole nother, people don't understand how hard that is in the commitment. For him to be coming out of heart surgery less than a year ago, for him to be able to be in the NBA, the kid he's he's special.
But I think my favorite part about this entire interview, and I don't mean to sound like the world's biggest hater, but LeBron mentions this bit about how Bronny just wanted his name called. It's kind of crazy because like the way this is said, it gives off the impression that Bronny just wants to play in the NBA. And if you remember in the pre-draft process, Bronny has said multiple times he just wants to play in the NBA, not necessarily with his dad.
Even about playing with your dad, like for you, or like what went to it from your perspective?
No, never. You know, my dream has always just been to put my name out, make a name for myself, and of course, you know, get to the NBA, which is everyone's end goal is here. And you know, I never thought about just playing with my dad, but of course he's brought it up a couple times. But yeah, I don't think about it much.
And the funny thing about all this is, if you guys remember on draft day, they said this.
Right now, Rich Paul's calling teams, don't take Bronny James. He's telling them, do not take him, okay? Saying, don't take him. If you take him, he's going to Australia. So he has a plan and he has a place.
But he's not telling the Lakers.
I don't know if he's telling one team that.
So it's just really funny when LeBron says,
Yeah, you know, my son just wanted to hear his name called, and my son doesn't really care if he plays with me or not.
but at the same time, my best friend and the agent of my son was calling teams saying if you draft Bronny, he's gonna play in Australia. Regardless, man, I think it's beautiful that Bronny got drafted by the Lakers. I kind of have reservations about the fact that Bronny is the highest paid 55th overall pick in NBA history by a large margin. I mean, if you take a look at previous 55th overall picks, man, it's typically a non-guaranteed two-way contract except for Gui Santos, but that's because he was overseas and they had to buy him out. But then you get Bronny, who's at a 4-year, $7.9 million contract with $4.4 million guaranteed. I mean, Mark J. Spears said it best.
But he did something different. Like the Nuggets, Hawks, Lakers, Kings, Heat, Bulls, and Warriors all have kids that are part of the front office. George Karl, Doc Rivers, Bernie Bickerstaff, Nate McMillan, Don Nelson, Flip Saunders, all their sons have gotten into coaching. This is the first time we've seen a player be able to use his presence to help his son get into the NBA. He has a 1+1 year deal, but his son signed a 4-year deal. For a player, an African-American player, to be able to do that, I think is brilliant. The runway his son has now to use these 4 years to prove that he's an NBA player long-term. By the end of those 4 years then, with the Lakers tutelage, I think he'll turn himself into a quality NBA player. So for him to be able to use his power to do that, I think is pretty legendary.
So that being said, you guys kind of get an idea of what this year's season's gonna look like for the Lakers. They didn't get any big free agents. They didn't even get any big role players. I mean, yeah, maybe they get Gary Trent Jr., which would be great, but there's no question about it. For the most part, most teams in the Western Conference got stronger. The Lakers didn't make any significant moves except Dalton Knecht and Bronny James. So that being said, Bronny James would make his Summer League debut, and I didn't want to spend too much time on this video talking about it because we all know Summer League doesn't really reflect how good a player is going to be. I mean, you remember a decade ago when Josh Selby was torching up the Summer League and he didn't really become a relevant player in the NBA? Maybe I'm too old and a lot of people don't remember who Josh Selby is. It was that long ago. But typically, Summer League success doesn't really translate to NBA success. Last year, Victor Wembanyama got absolutely pummeled by Kai Jones. Kai Jones is on a non-guaranteed contract with a completely different team despite being a first-round pick, and Wemby is Wemby, okay? That being said, it's just really funny to see the media handle Bronny James's debut. I mean, his first game wasn't really that good, respectfully, but at the same time, what did you expect from the 55th overall pick in the NBA draft that averaged 4.8 points per game on sub 40% from the field and sub 30% from three? I mean, don't get me wrong, it would have been hilarious if Bronny pulled up to the Summer League and dropped 30, and if in this year he won Rookie of the Year, kind of like the way Malcolm Brogdon won Rookie of the Year during his draft class despite being drafted in the second round. The reality was it was kind of a brutal debut. Bronny went 2 of 9 from the field with 4 points, 2 assists, 2 rebounds, and a steal, and it also featured him getting his ankles taken during this game. Now, does it really mean anything? Not necessarily, but I just love the way media is covering this because look at this graphic right over here. I've never seen a graphic oriented in this way. At the very top, they have the amount of minutes he played. So at first glance, guys, you think maybe this guy dropped 21 points. But it gets even funnier. It's like 21 minutes, 4 points. And then have you ever seen this at the bottom right here? The assist dash rebounds, 2 of 2. So maybe you think, oh, he went 2 of 2 from the field and that's how he got his 4 points? Or this is such a strange way to orient this graphic. So after this, Bronny would get injured, so he didn't play in his next summer league game. And don't get me wrong, this is going to be a fun thing to monitor throughout the next month. But at the end of the day, we know who Bronny James is, okay? He's an undersized guard. The Lakers are going to try to develop him just because he's LeBron's son. It's definitely a clear act of nepotism, but it's LeBron James's son, for crying out loud. It's unfortunate that the Lakers aren't really going to be competitive this year, but we're talking about a man that brought a championship to an organization that was very far away from a championship before he arrived. And there's no question about it. If LeBron didn't come over and they didn't trade their previous core, the Lakers would not have won a championship within the past couple of years. They wouldn't be nearly as competitive as they are now. It is a bit of a power move to get your son to play with you, but I think it's a cool storyline that we'll get to watch throughout the year. Let me know what you guys think about the state of the Lakers right now. I know it's not looking so good for us this season, but I felt like I owed you guys an update. But if you guys haven't heard, DeMar DeRozan officially made his decision, coming back to his home state of California to sign with the Sacramento Kings. How did we get to this point? Well, it's a crazy story and we have our own separate video on it. I'll meet you guys over there. And aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.